Hey everybody, this video is not specifically to Kung Fu or Tai Chi, but is more about the culture and the etiquette at a martial arts school, at a Mogun. A Mogun could be teaching Tai Chi or Kung Fu. In our case, we teach Hap Kun, Tai Chi, Hong Kun. So the Mogun, each school has its own kind of traditions, its own etiquette. And one of the things that is common to all Kung Fu styles is the Kung Fu salute. Now, although different schools might do it differently, there's some basic similarities between all of it. And one of my online academy students was asking me about some questions because they'd not learned martial art in person before. I'm starting from scratch, so there's certain things that I didn't explain, and I think I was remiss not to go a little bit into the culture. Now, I'm struggling in one sense in that teaching face-to-face, okay, teaching in the West is different to teaching in China. It's a different culture. And teaching on the internet is a brand new thing. It's not the same as teaching in person. So how much of the culture of the traditional Chinese school do we want to bring into the online academy? And there's certain aspects I think it's kind of nice, and the culture enriches what we do, and it's part of the flavor of what we do. And so I think, and enough people have expressed an interest to make me think that I should talk a little bit about this and explain a little bit about this. Okay, and okay, some of the things maybe we need to leave back in China or leave back in a previous age, and some of it doesn't belong in today's culture. There's certain things in the Western culture as well that used to be very accepted like a couple of generations ago and have disappeared or have moved with the times. But it's a shame when you lose certain things in the West, like basic good manners, respect for older people, and there's lots of things that we seem to have lost that we really perhaps would have been better off not losing. So while some of the modern stuff's good, some of the old stuff's good. We should take the best things from everything, right? So let's talk a little bit about the Kung Fu salute. The Western handshake is not used in China, or traditionally not used in China. Again, didn't particularly want physical contact. Now we've had the COVID-19 crisis and people don't want to go back to shaking hands and touching again. So Kung Fu has a similar idea, the Kung Fu salute. When you shake hands, you're saying to somebody, here's my hand. I'm not going to draw my sword. So the idea was shaking hands and saying that there's no intention to draw a weapon. In the Kung Fu salute, the fist is the weapon, so you're covering it and you're saying, right, I'm covering my weapon. I have peaceful intentions. So you're showing some restraint. You have the physical power and then you have some restraint, and it's yin and yang. So there's that aspect. There's other aspects as well. There's more philosophical and also political connotations to the handshake. To the salute, I mean, which I'll talk a little bit about. I won't go too much into it. But different schools will do it slightly differently. So, for example, in the school where I learned in Guangzhou, in my Sifu's tradition, which is the Deng family, Deng Jiangong, he would make a fist. We would use this kind of fist. So you have this space here. And you will make a palm like this. So your fingers are straight and your thumb is bent. And then this part of the thumb goes into this part of the fist here. That's the position. So see it from here, it's like this. It's not like this, it's not over here, it's here. The things should be symmetrical, so not have one up, one down. Okay? And it should be in front of the center of the chest, not up here, but in front of your chest. This is the motion. So the proper salute, according to our school, is here and back. And some people bow or push the hands out, but that's not necessary. Just simply bring the hands up and bring them down. Okay, so when do we bow? We bow when we see our Sifu, when we see our classmates, before training, after training. And the tradition of the Bai Si, so my Kung Fu shrine behind you here has a picture of my Sifu's father and grandfather. Only the masters that passed away would be on the shrine. So it's not a religious thing per se, it's a respect for the ancestors. So in the old school, and I didn't keep this tradition when I taught in the UK because some people from Western culture and religions had a problem with it. But what they would do in the old days, they would salute first of all to the ancestors, then they would salute to the teacher, then they would salute to their classmates. So what does that mean? It means we have a tradition that's been passed a long time, so we're showing some respect to the lineage, to the ancestors where the knowledge has come through. We're thanking our teacher for teaching us so that we can learn it. And our classmates, we're saying, without people to practice with and sparring and so on. So we want to show respect for them. So we play well together. We play nicely together. We help each other improve. So it's respect. It's kind of gratitude. There's lots of different kind of ideas about it. And it's also greeting. Now, some schools will have slightly different ways of doing it, so it's a bit like a Masonic handshake. You can sometimes tell the school by how they salute, right? And then you'll know really whether, when two people salute, and they know what school they're at. And often schools had certain political affiliations, so by the time you knew what school someone was with, you knew if they were friend or foe, right? Was there going to be a fight or wasn't there going to be a fight? So my Sifu's father, who learned, I'll talk about the Taiji first of all. He learned Taiji from Yang Xiaochong, the Yang family. He also learned from Li Tianjie, who was the creator of the 24 forms and the modern Taiji form. So he learned from him as well in Beijing. And I've studied with their family. His son, because he obviously Li Tianjie passed before my time, but I studied all with his nephew and some of his disciples. And they have a way of saluting where they turn the hand like this. So they show the palm here. So their hand's like this. So that's quite different. When you see that, you'll see, oh, it's a different school, right? And other schools, for example, some of the Hakka schools will salute like this with the hand on top. Okay? So some of the Hongkong schools will salute with the tiger claw instead of a palm because they're saying we're tiger style. This is showing that we do tiger claw. So there are variations, okay? So the little details do matter if you're really into the culture, if you want to geek out on that side of it. And there was a time when it really was important because it literally showed what your affiliation was. And another bit of geekery for you, that in Chinese writing, the character for the sun, which is yat, looks basically like this. And the character for moon, which is yut, which is like a crescent shape, looks basically like this. When you put yat, yut together, the sun and the moon, the character is called Ming. Ming means brightness because it's like the light of the sun and the moon together. And so what this had an idea of was restoring the Ming dynasty. So the affiliation was against the Qings and restoring the Ming dynasty. So that's another possible interpretation. But again, that's history. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the terminology of the Kung Fu family now. So why Sifu, Simo, Sijie, Siheng, it's very confusing. And to Westerners, what's it all about? And I think it's the most misunderstood thing in Kung Fu because when it made its way into the West, particularly in my observation into the United States, and in some kind of martial arts, like in Japanese and Korean martial arts, they had grades, they had different levels. So you were whatever Dan and you were a master or a grandmaster or this or that. And so some people thought that these terminology in the Chinese martial art was some kind of ranking or some kind of grading. So I see people saying, I've been promoted to Siheng or I've been promoted to Sifu or something like that. Wrong. Just categorically wrong. It's trying to take one culture and transplant it onto another culture. These terminologies is nothing to do with rank. It's to do with a relationship. Now, traditional Kung Fu is based on a Confucian philosophy, which is a family, and respect for the elders, respect for the ancestors. So therefore, all of the terms are simply family terms. So your classmates, anyone that studies under the same teacher than you is your brother or your sister in the Kung Fu family. That's what it means. So they're either your elder brother or your younger brother. And that doesn't mean they're older or younger than you. It means it's from when they started training. So if I joined a class today and somebody else joins the class tomorrow, they are my junior. They could be way better than me. They could overtake me and their Kung Fu can be much higher level. But they would still, in the Chinese way, would still call me older brother because it's respect. You were here first, right? With the sisters, it's the same thing. You have Sijie, which is the older sister, Si Moi, who's the younger sister. Yeah, you have Si Dai, which is the younger brother, Si Heng, which is the older brother. So that's what these terms mean. Do we need to learn them in English? English people need to learn the Chinese? I don't know. There's something kind of nice about it if you like that kind of thing. But when it becomes all about you will address me as Sifu or something like that, then it's just cringy and horrible, and let's drop all that stuff. But in its place, and certainly in China, okay, Sifu, the character Fu means father. And so because the school is like a family, so that it's in generations. So if you're learning under somebody, then they are the generation above you. So in the family tree, this is father generation, and then the next generation down. So my Sifu, my teacher, if you are my student, you would call him Si Gong. Now, Gong means grandfather. So why is that? Because it's 2 generations up. And again, Chinese have respect for that. So you're respecting someone. Oh, they're 2 generations above me. So you show them the kind of the grandfatherly type respect that is in the Confucian culture. Okay. So therefore, my Hengdai, my Kung Fu brothers and sisters, my students would call them uncles and aunts. Okay. So yeah, it gets complicated, but so, families are complicated, right? So that's kind of how it works. So some people ask me, should they call me Sifu? Should they call me? If you like the culture, I think it's nice while we're doing Kung Fu to respect the tradition, and so Sifu is fine. But if you think it's kind of patriarchal nonsense and doesn't belong in the modern West, and you want to say David, then I get that. I think it's really important that we don't make it into a kind of a thing about ego or say something about ranking. It's not about that. It's just about we want to make it like a family. We want to respect each other. And if we build that kind of a culture, it does have a different feeling. Now, I've taught MMA where they don't have such a culture. And I've dropped all the titles. Don't use any of the Chinese. Just teach the fighting techniques. And you know what? It's different. People will think nothing of studying with you for a few years, then getting a title, getting some kind of championship, then going away, right? Worse than that, opening a school down the road and saying, not even mentioning where they learned their stuff from. Not even saying on their website saying, I learned from, because it's a different culture. They can simply say, oh, I'm a champion. And then by nature, and because we're in the West, the students will go, oh, we'll go there because they're a champion. Chinese will say, you're a champion, right? How did you get to be a champion? Ah, there's a guy over there who's taught 9 champions. Maybe there's something in their method. Maybe there's something in their system. Maybe I'd be better off learning there. It's a different culture. It's a different way of thinking. And so I think it's quite nice, as I get older. Obviously, when I first started teaching, I was 22, so probably a little shy about using those kind of terms. And now my kids are grown up, I don't have so much of a problem with it. And something else as well, there's a formal ceremony in Chinese called Bai Si, where it's a formal adoption. And people are asking me about that, the Bai Si ceremony. Now, Bai Si is like, I suppose they translate it in English as disciple ceremony. So you are formally a student of somebody. And that's done as a way of saying, right, everybody knows that you're my teacher. So, for example, in the case of, say, some of these previous champions, it would be different if they had to formally say in front of everyone, this is my teacher. So you're making a commitment. And the teacher's right, actually. It was this idea. If you don't want to make that commitment to me and say, I want to be your student, then I'm not going to make the commitment to you. Why should I teach you all my good stuff and then you disappear? Right? So that again, I don't do that. I have never done that. That's a different time. I have done that with my teacher in China, however, because I feel that in China, the culture is still relevant. My Sifu, when he retired, said, I want to do Bai Si because when he was running a commercial school, he had lots of students and whatever. Now he just wants a few close students, and the relationship is different. And so there's a little bit more expected from both sides. There's a commitment to say, I want to pass this tradition down, but in return, you have to formally take me as your teacher, and I formally take you as a student. And the reason they say adoption ceremony is because in the family, it's like a family tree. So then you can write your name in the tree and say, right, I am a formal student of this person, student of this person. And again, in the modern Western culture, someone will go to somebody for a seminar. And I've been to so many seminars are awesome, and cross-training and going to different gyms and training with different people. I thoroughly recommend get out of your bubble, right? I've trained with UFC fighters and all kinds of, but I wouldn't go around saying, oh, they're my teacher, right? Because you went to one seminar with 50 people for 6 hours. The relationship is very superficial. It's good to do that because you taste different things. It enriches your own practice. The more things you see, the more you open your mind to different things. So that's one thing, but you don't take a few lessons with someone or a seminar and then say, that's my teacher, right? Because then you're basically piggybacking off of the fame and the hard work of someone else, and you haven't earned that. So when you do Bai Si, that's different. That's like, right, I'm making a commitment here. I'm going to train hard here. So that, I think, is irrelevant in the online academy. There's no way that would work. It absolutely couldn't happen. But I'm just explaining it to you for interest. It may well be one day if I'm retiring and I want to take a few successors who want to open up their own schools to say it might be appropriate to do something more formal in that way. But I'm just, again, telling you a bit about the culture. So although I have not any Yapsat Todai, Bai Si students, my Sifu has a few, of which I am one. So that's a little bit about the Bai Si ceremony. So I've talked about the salute, I've talked about the Santoi, which is the family, the shrine, and I've talked a little bit about the Kung Fu family. So if you have any questions on this, and give me some feedback. How much of this do you think should be part of an online academy, or do you think it's something from another time and it's kind of cute but not relevant? I'd like to know, because my ideas about this changed a lot over the last few years. So I'd be intrigued to hear your feedback. So thank you, everyone, and that's it for today. Thank you.